So this morning we're going to look at the ergonomics. One of the things I've been not disappointed about, because it's a fantastic bike, but just found a bit surprising, was just how poor the location of the gear shift and the brake pedal are when you ride on the pegs. Balls of your feet on the pegs and standing up or even sitting down. It is nigh on impossible to get a pseudo motocross boot under the gear shift, and I know the adventure model comes with an adjustable gear shift to try and mitigate that a little bit, but the fundamental problem is that the mount for the foot pegs is far too high, and the gear shift will catch the engine cover if you adjust the shift up, which you can do on the splines there. You can move it up a spline, but then your shift pedal hits a crankcase. So when you're riding on the balls of your feet, you can see that to be able to get underneath the shift pedal, you've got to slide all the way forward, and you've got to be in that position, which, I don't know if you can see that very well, is not ideal. It's a hell of an angle, and if I follow that up with my knees are right now underneath the handlebars to be able to shift. So what you end up doing is using the very edge of your boot, the weld, to sort of try and catch like that. Just the very tip of your boot catches, or you can just about get it with that. It's not impossible, but it's just a bit crap, to be honest. It's not brilliant. So two things you can do. Three things. You can adjust the gear pedal up on the splines, as I said earlier, using that little fella there. This is a turnbuckle, so you can get a little bit of adjustment out of it, but not much, and because it's the quick shift, it's not ideal to go messing about with it too much. You can take the rubbers off the pegs, which I've done already. That gave me about 10 mil, probably, a bit lower. You can spend about £120 to get an adjustable shift lever. I think the adventure model, and actually I think the newer version of this is a 21. I think the 22, 23 come with an adjustable gear shift on them. But yeah, the likes of Touratech and SW Motec make an adjustable, foldable, very nice CNC piece that goes in there. Or you can do what I'm going to do today and fit the Works LOW pegs from Touratech, which should drop down by 20 mil, which should bring my foot level with the gear shift, and the same on the other side with the brake pedal. So I'm going to have a go at doing that, and I'm going to try and video it and see what happens. And just for comparison, this is your brake pedal, similar sort of system. As you can see, that brake pedal is a mile away from being level with the foot peg. Not so much of a problem in that you don't have to try and get underneath it to shift like you do with a shift pedal, but it would be far nicer if it was a bit closer. And I know, again, adventure model comes with a little step that you can fold down on the brake pedal, just pops down on there to make it higher. Yeah, that seems like a bit of a fudge, if you ask me. I don't see why you couldn't make it so that you didn't need to do that. And I know, again, SW Motec, Touratech, loads of people make platforms that build these up. They've even got ones that have got a step there and then a low bit there. The fundamental problem is, though, BMW have put their pegs here and their shift pedal all the way down there, which I guess if you're on a road bike, it's probably not too bad, but these things are designed to be, well, they're designed to be at Starbucks, I'm sure, but I'm sure they're not always like that. Mine's been off-road a fair bit already, and yeah, when you're standing up, it ain't good enough. When you try and lock the back brake up, it's yeah, it's like a bloody contortionist. So again, pegs are going on. Let's see what happens. So these are the pegs in question, as you can see. Touratech Works, and the important bit about these is they are lower. So they're about 20 mil lower than the standard ones. So they're welded differently onto the spindle. This is actually for the left hand side. When they come, the spring and the collet that goes through the middle, there's a little metal bar, hollow one, you can see there, are in the bag. And now I'm lucky in that I've got years of fitting bicycle tubes and bending things and all the rest of it. My thumbs are reasonably strong, but most people, you're going to struggle unless you stick it in a vise, start it off by hand, press the spring down, push the collet through a little bit, and then all you need to do is stick a screwdriver right through it and wiggle it and push, and it'll go through. If you don't have a vise, you can do it. You don't need to do it with a vise, but I put them in a vise and it took 2 minutes. But yeah, just be aware they don't come fully assembled, and despite what it looks like, the little spring does sit there rather than there. I was expecting the spring to sit away from the weld a bit to make it a better interface, but it doesn't. But it doesn't look like it makes any difference. When it comes to fitting, I'm going to bung a bit of calcium grease in there just to make sure that they move freely. And the actual job to remove them is very straightforward. As you can see, pivot. So you've got a pivot pin that slides around in there. There's a circlip just under there which will pop off. So we'll pop the circlip off, push the pivot pin out, remove this, new one goes on. Like I say, that's the other side, so hang on, let me get the other one. That's the side that we're putting in. So you can see that they're lower. That's not very obvious actually from here. Where it's fitted, that will be about 20mm lower, so it'll sit around about there, which brings it closer. Sorry, I'm videoing the wrong bit. It'll sit about there, and it does bring it closer to the brake pedal, so we'll see. Right, I'm going to get my shit together and grab some tools, and we'll get them sorted, hopefully. Shouldn't take too long. And what you always need to do is to remember to press record. So, start again. So, the plan is circlip out, pin out. You may need a nylon head hammer, don't think so, it's pretty loose. Screwdriver just in case you need to push from the inside of there. Somehow centre stands in the road. I have got an axle stand that, yeah, see what happens, and a set of grips and some grease to keep everything moving. Yeah, I'll do the work and be back in a minute. That looks alright. Let's grab a boot and see what happens. That's a bit better. Nowhere near as high. Yeah. Not perfect, but decent improvement. Anyway. Yeah, cool. And the other side, it really is that simple. The hardest part there is you've got to compress. You've got to push down on that to compress the spring. So engage the spring. You can almost see it. You need to engage the spring, which is in the little hole down there, and press down on the, I don't know what you would call it, but on that bit, there and there, and then you can gently just push the pin through, and then a very gentle tap with the nylon headed hammer, and it'll drift in, no problem. Right, and there you have it. That's the other side on. To be honest, the hardest part about this whole job is that little snap ring circlip thing. Getting it off, they deform, basically. So you have to very carefully reshape it with your grips and your screwdriver and whatever else you've got handy, to make sure that it does actually snap when you put it back on and it's not just a ring. So yeah, make sure that when you're putting it back on, that make sure that that little fella there, the little circlip, snap ring, whatever, on the back of there actually snaps into place and it's not stretched, because they do stretch. You can get replacements, obviously, pennies probably from your, well, probably pounds from your BMW dealer, but pennies from any other place, and see what you can find, and you'll be able to do it. I just managed to reshape it and it's fine, it snaps on nice and tight. Right, so yeah, moment of truth with my trusty boot. Let's see what we get, and there you go. Look, you can see straight away the difference is measurable by quite a lot. It's far easier to get underneath there, far easier, and shifting down should be nothing. It's literally parallel with the can you see? Yeah, it's almost ideal. Now, motocross bikes, I would always try and have gear shifter level with the top of the pegs, just to make it easier to shift when you're standing and when you're sitting. And I don't think people think about the ergonomics on these things as much as they should when they get them. I would say that before you go sticking all your falcals on the luggage racks for carrying a mule across the Sahara Desert, go and think about how you actually sit on the bike. Get your feet in the right place, get your pegs low, or your gear shift high and your brake pedal high. Bars are next, probably. I think the bars on them are probably a bit too far forward and probably a bit low. And again, it's not criticism, it's just that, these are a hybrid. Do everything to some extent, and you just need to tweak them to fit you. Lower foot pegs is my first point of call, because to be honest, it's cheaper than buying a gear shift and a brake pedal. Yeah, and I'm tall enough to be able to do it. I mean, it'll bring all the controls down a bit to me. But yeah, ergonomics is probably the thing that I think people forget about before they go spending all that hard-earned wedge on crash bars and God knows what else. off-road tyres for going to Starbucks. Yeah, anyway, that's it. Pedals are on. Pedals. Foot pegs. Wrong boot. But yeah, foot peg on. Looks smashing. Quite happy with that. So that took me all of, if I hadn't been trying to tell you guys about it, it'd probably take me 10 minutes. But yeah, just be careful with the little circlips. Right, that's enough. Cheers. And I'll do a walk around of the bike and stuff when it's not quite so wet and miserable outside, and show you what it actually is. And I'll tell you about why I bought it. Cool. Cheers.